Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome inside the Fan Cave. Bob Pompeani with you until 11 o'clock. At 412-575-2600 is the number to call. We have a lot to get into tonight, and also want to remind you about the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. It'll be on about 43 minutes late tonight, so hope you can stay up with us. Ray Fittipaldo's on the program tonight, as well as Jason Mackey and Chris Adamski. We're on late because of what you saw today at the Masters, and a sudden death necessary. First one since 2017 when Justin Rose lost to Sergio Garcia. Well, he lost another one today, this time to Rory McIlroy, in one of the more emotional final rounds you will find. Roller coaster up and down, and McIlroy completes the career Grand Slam. So it took him 10 years to do it, and you can tell the weight of those 10 years was riding heavily on his shoulders. But finally, he got an opportunity to break through, and he did today when it looked like he may not do it after having at one point a 4-shot lead in this tournament. He went to the second 9 down there, and man, he had some ups and downs. 13 looked like he played the hole conservatively, but you know, for him anyway, and laid up, hit a wedge shot. He's normally very good with those wedges. Put it in Rays Creek, led to a double bogey, 1 of 2 on the day, 1 of 4 on the tournament. And never before has a player with 4 double bogeys won the Masters until today, and he did that. So congrats to him. 4 of the 4 are now checked off. He will go to the PGA, which happens to be at Quail Hollow, which happens to be a place he's won 4 times, as the favorite, no doubt, to win that event. And if he does, that'll be 2 majors out of 2. And that means he would come to Oakmont and the U.S. Open looking for 3 for 3. Now, that's getting ahead of ourselves, but he is one of those guys that you have to watch out for, and he's playing very confidently right now. McIlroy wins the 89th Masters, and he did it in dramatic fashion. So we'll talk more about that, obviously, coming up with you at 412-575-2600. But we're also here talking about the struggles of the Pittsburgh sports teams, because now it's a collective thing. You know, teams not getting the playoffs, and this will be normally the time of year where we would be amping up for the playoffs in the Penguins and some great matchups like you'll see coming up starting, you know, next weekend, which will be like Florida and Tampa, a great series there. Toronto and Ottawa, what a great series that'll be. Missed that now for the 3rd straight year because the Penguins have been eliminated. Although I have to say this, since their elimination, they've been playing pretty good hockey, and Tristan Jarry specifically has played well. He did again today. Singled out by Mike Sullivan is about the only guy who played well as they lost to Boston 4-1. So it will lead to a very interesting offseason of what they do with certain players, trying to get to conserve some money, you know, get contracts off the books if they can, but also looking to add to a team that really needs some help. They got a tremendous year out of Sidney Crosby, and that's the shame of this now, is that there have been 3 years in a row where Crosby continues to play at a very elite level. He was 10th overall in the NHL in scoring this year. And yet, here they are struggling and not to get to the playoffs. On a year when the Eastern Conference, I thought, went backwards a little bit. Boston didn't make the playoffs. The Rangers didn't make the playoffs. There were openings there, and the Penguins could not take advantage of it. And then, of course, there are the Pirates, who continue to be just inept at hitting the baseball. It's unbelievable. Strikeout after strikeout, and they also put themselves in terrible positions, you know, defensively at times, fundamental plays, offensively. For the amount of stolen bases they have, you would have thought they'd have more run production. But they have not hit with runners in scoring position. Their numbers are just terrible all the way around, and something's got to give. They're now 5-11. How long do they continue to do this without a reaction from Bob Nutting, the owner? I mean, at some point, you have to make a statement if this continues to get out of hand, because a lot of people felt in this year number 6 of the Ben Cherington, Derek Shelton regime that they would have much more success. And I thought going into this year with the pitching staff they had that if they had any sort of hitting, they could be competitive for sure, but they really didn't address any of that in the offseason. So all those topics on the table for you at 412-575-2600. Want to hear from you? It'll start next as we open up the phone lines right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. Give us a shout. All right, welcome back. This is our Xfinity Mobile tweet of the night, and these are the only 6 players in the history of the game to have career Grand Slams. You see the list with Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan. You also have Jack Nicklaus on that list, Tiger, and now Rory McIlroy, Gary Player also. Those guys have had legendary careers, and so has Rory McIlroy, and he'll take that opportunity to go to the PGA in Quail Hollow and then here at the U.S. Open. So he'll be here in June when that tournament takes place. And yesterday I spoke with the president of Oakmont, John Lynch, on my radio program, and he explained some very interesting stuff for me concerning a lot of the information you guys might be interested in. If you have a chance, listen to that interview. One thing that stuck out to me was they put 24,000 square feet of additional green space on those large greens to begin with. And now they're even bigger, and they open up more pin placements. So you'll see something probably new that you haven't seen in previous U.S. Opens. And because it's an anchor site, Oakmont Country Club, chosen by the USGA, with Pinehurst and Pebble, those are the only three, quote, anchor sites. They get a lot of funding from the USGA, and they've been able to do a lot of great work out there, and you'll see it on display in June. All right, let's go to the phone lines at 412-575-2600. Will in McKees Rocks, our first caller tonight. Hello, Mr. Will. How are you?
Hey, Bob. How are you tonight?
Doing good, thanks.
Oh, good. Thanks for taking my call, as always. But I had a question, wanted to talk about the Penguins with you. With the way things have gone the past 3 years in a row with no playoffs, do you think there's going to be any coaching changes, like within the staff and in the executive order?
Will, I don't. Not with the Penguins, and here's why. I think Mike Sullivan, first of all, USA hockey coach. There's an Olympic coach coming up. He's going to be that in Italy. They brought in David Quinn, last year as a coaching change. So I think they'll stick with what they have. You can argue against that if you'd want, but I think the Penguins have played fairly well ever since they've been eliminated. Now they got problems, and they go into the player development and player procurement more than anything else. Similar with the Pirates. I mean, you could blame coaches all you want, and I understand that when you're as bad as they've been for 6 years, the change should be inevitable. But my point is, you need for the chef to make the dinner, you got to have some pretty good ingredients, and so far. With regard to the Pirates, they don't have enough for sure. And with regard to the Penguins, they don't have the right chemistry. They have elite talent, but they don't have a lot of secondary talent, whether it's secondary scoring or, fourth, fifth, sixth defensemen. They need better players, and they also need stability in goal. Now, the big question to me, Will, is what will they do with Tristan Jarry? He's played well since his recall from the minors, and is that enough to encourage a team to trade for him and so they can save some money perhaps? Or do they double down and believe in him, even though we haven't seen him at all in the postseason to make that judgment? Because I think that's the biggest criticism of Tristan Jarry. Consistency and doing it when it matters the most. So that will be an interesting call for sure. Let's go to Chuck in Uniontown, joining us on line 3. Hello, Chuck. What's up?
Good evening, Bob. First of all, belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I wish I could go backwards counting.
Friday.
Yes.
Bob, starts attacking them. Anyhow, Bob, would you think the Pirates would make a managerial switch during the season, or would they have to ride this out until the end of the season? Because if it was up to me, I think I'd do it right now. Because I said myself, if they got more than 5 games under 500, the season was over, because this team has no power, no pull to pull themselves from under 500 back into contention whatsoever.
Well, if you're looking for short-term, kind of fixes, I don't think there are any. So you can change managers, but I don't think it'll change much of anything. Because quite frankly, as you said, the talent is not there. It doesn't matter who's. That does not mean that Bob Nutting shouldn't make a call and say we need a change, and do it even for cosmetic reasons, just to satisfy people out there who are really getting a little annoyed at this yearly problem, it seems. And they don't want another rebuild, but you're going to have to maybe do that. So this is what happens, though, when you don't invest enough in the product. And I'm going to start there with that. I think you can't go into this every year looking at a $70, $80 million payroll when you don't draft and develop properly. If you had that part of it covered, then you wouldn't have to spend money. But because you don't, you should. And because they didn't, they have what they have. In a lineup that changes every day, they had Andy Rodriguez batted cleanup tonight. They've had this year or today, and they've also had him batting all over the lineup. They've had Valdez batting leadoff, batting third, batting fifth. They've had all these guys moving around. There's no consistency to their lineup, so they don't have enough of talent, and that affects what a manager can do. And that's not making an excuse for Derek Shelton. If they make a change by both GM and manager, it would be merited based on 6 years of not putting together any sort of consistent winning. Let's go to John in Cranberry. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, Bob. Thanks for taking my call. Happy Sunday night to you. And that Masters game today, that Masters round was probably the best I've ever seen. That was some drama, and congratulations on golf immortality to Rory McIlroy. He was just incredible. So, but I wanted to ask you about the Penguins. You know, they're out of it, but you mentioned playoff matchups. Mm-hmm. Who do you like coming out of the East and West this year for the Stanley Cup? Who are your teams? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you, John. It's pretty even up, you know, quite frankly. Winnipeg won the President's Trophy, so they had the best record. I thought Washington at one point. You know what? I'm going to make you a little prediction. I think Washington will be a first-round upset victim. I'm not buying their goaltending, and I think they've played really badly over the last couple of weeks, and at least not to that level that I would expect them to play. They've had a magnificent year, but I was looking at Tampa a few years ago when Columbus swept them in the first round. Tampa was a much better team. I think Washington is one of those teams that could be eliminated early, despite the success they've had. From the East, I like Tampa. I think Tampa with Vasilevsky playing well and Gensel, near 40-goal scorer, along with, Kucherov and all those other players they have on that team. It's a really good team. I would look for Tampa, but they got a first-round matchup against the Florida Panthers that will not be easy. Brad Marchand has joined that team, so they got a bunch of agitators, not to mention some very good players on that team as well, and Bobrovsky has been outstanding in goal. So that's one. I would take Tampa from the East, and I'm going to stick to Dallas in the West. I think Dallas has way too many good players not to be considered. If Ottinger does what he's supposed to do, I think Dallas will be a formidable team. So I look for Tampa Bay and Dallas in the Stanley Cup final. Thanks for the call. Let's go out to Jim in Peters Township. Hello, Jim. How are you tonight?
Hey, Bob. How you doing? I've been a Pirate fan a long time, since 1960. I'm 73, but I've never been so negative on the Pirates in my life. They haven't done a darn thing in the off season, and it's pathetic the way they're playing. They don't have. I mean, they bring guys up like Valdez and who's the right fielder? I can't think of his name right now. That has a little bit of pop in the minor.
The guy they just acquired in the trade for the Mets. Yeah, Alexander Canario. And then they brought up Chen, the shortstop who played, and he hasn't had a hit, I don't think, yet.
Yeah. I mean, they have absolutely no chance, none. I don't think they'll win as many as they did last year, which was, 77? They'll be lucky to win 70.
They're on a pace to lose 111, Jim. That's what they are right now. And I know it's only 16 games, but it is 16 games. And they're dead last in every offensive category you can find. So if you're not going to hit, no matter how good your pitching is, you're not going to be able to win a lot. Nick joins us right now in Squirrel Hill. Hello, Nick. What's going on tonight? Thank you for joining us. Or is it Rick?
Actually, it's Rick.
I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Hey, Bob. Jory gets a lot of criticism, but I think the defense doesn't get enough criticism. I think they need defensemen that actually play defense. And the one I'm aiming at is really Letang. I mean, I don't know how many times I see him down the ice. He's out of position, allowing odd man breaks. He's too slow now. And he takes these penalties and he argues with the refs. They have to find a way to get rid of him after this year. I don't think they will. But, I mean, they have to. He's just a liability, I feel, anymore.
He's not been good, and he wasn't good today either. And quite frankly, they have two in the same with Carlson and Letang. They both do the same things. They could be wondrous at times offensively. That's what their careers have been, but they're very much out of position at times defensively and not good enough to make plays defensively. Believe me when I say Chris Letang has been a tremendous Pittsburgh Penguin over the year. There's no question about that. His career has been spectacular. But there comes a time when you have to make deals, and they should have done this a little bit earlier in both Malkin and Letang's tenure here, I think. I know it's tough for them to break up. They're on this little bit of a nostalgia tour, which is great, except that, they needed some assets. Much like, what you see from, the Steelers. They need assets, too. They got to figure out the quarterback situation. So there's a lot that goes into that. But when you don't move guys and then they all have no trade clauses, you're kind of stuck right now. And so it's incumbent upon them to figure out a way to get better defensively. Yes, they need, they traded Marcus Pettersson at the time. I thought he was their best defensive defenseman. So they need help there. There's no question about that. Jack in Mount Lebanon joins us right now. Hello, Jack. How are you?
Hi, Bob. I'm doing good. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
Hey, Bob Nutting's a billionaire. As long as people pay money, he doesn't care.
Listen, he cares about the profit. I do think he cares about winning, but he's not willing to back up his, situation of being a business that is not your normal business. And by that I mean, this is not just a profit-based business. You have to have some civic responsibility, especially after you're giving a lot of stuff from taxpayers. And they're going to want more of that kind of stuff moving forward, whether that, enhancements to PNC Park because it's getting older, whatever the case may be. There's a lease that's coming up at some point. He's going to dig deep into the city, and he's going to want more. But you know what? I'd say no until I see more from you. The obligation on your part was to come in here and put together contending teams. And short of 3 years, and that's all we've seen over the past how many decades, that's all you've gotten. And this offseason cried for help. This offseason, everyone who followed the Pirates knew that they were lacking in hitting. They were bad last year. They've gotten worse this year because they didn't do enough in the offseason. You could tell me Tommy Pham's a veteran. He came in here and Pham's going to be he's batting 198. You can tell me that they brought up, Adam Frazier. Okay, nice Pirate, but he's batting whatever he's batting, probably less than 200. Well, the point is, you got to make plays. You got to do more. And you can't win in this league if you're not going to draft and develop, and then you're not going to spend. And if you really wanted to make a statement, I think if I were Bob Nutting, I would be making some flap about the economic conditions in baseball. But if you're always going to be making money, then you don't necessarily want to mess it up. So maybe you don't want to say. But I would like to see him start saying, we need help. This is a situation that needs a salary cap, but it would force him to spend to the floor, which he may not be comfortable with. I mean, I haven't seen any evidence to tell me I'm different. That's different. We got to take a break. 412-575-2600. We'll be back right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. All right, welcome back. One thing I will say about the Penguins, at least they gave an opportunity for some young guys to come up here and play and show what they got. I think Rutger McGrory is a guy who will make the roster next year to start the season. And certainly Ville Koivunen was somebody who came up, and they've been using him on the power play. He seems like he really is comfortable at this level. So whether or not he's a top 6 guy or someone who can contribute, at least those are 2 younger guys who can add to this roster. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll do it every night at 10:35 right here for the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. And be sure to join us. We're on late a little bit tonight because of the length of the Masters, but what a thrilling finish it was. That's tonight for the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown, a little after midnight tonight. On our show is Ray Fittipaldo, Chris Adamski, and Jason Mackey. And I think you'll find it very interesting. A lot of topics that we talked here about tonight, we expand on that program. So that's going to do it. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great week, and we'll see you again tomorrow night, 10:35, same start time right here on KDKA+, and some nights 93.7 The Fan. Good night.